Good morning, financial technology. Welcome to Bullet Point Bulletins weekly wrap-up for February 5th, 2023. I am Bruce Burke, and I'm here with my good friend and co-host Ted Huff of Fintech Confidential. Ted, go ahead and tell the people what we are talking about today.
So we've got 6 really great stories that spread the entire gamut of fintech and Web3, as well as a number of other things. But we're going to start off by talking about the CFTC chairman calling on Congress to fill the regulatory gap of the crypto world. Then we'll start talking about how California has started their journey to a blockchain to power the future of their DMV. Next, we'll start talking about Ripple having a little bit of a legal victory dance right now as the lawsuit awaits for its final outcome. Then we'll talk about the first U.S. on-chain home ownership transfer using a NFT on DeFi with Roofstock. Then we'll jump into eBay. eBay's gone on a hiring spree to become the lead in Web3 race against Amazon. That's a big one they're working against. And then lastly, but not least, we're going to be talking about how Justin Sun, the founder and former CEO of Tron, have built in a integration between Tron and ChatGPT for a decentralized framework for payments. Those are some things that I thought we would be discussing this. Those are some great things that we're going to be discussing this week. As you can see, I am a little out of it, but let's go ahead and hop in to the CFTC and Chairman Rostin Behnam.
Okay. From my understanding, it's they want to do more to regulate crypto because apparently crypto keeps saying, tell us what we're doing wrong, right? Let's define this a little bit more. You've got this defined from, stocks and bonds and that kind of thing, but you don't have crypto really defined yet. And I think that's what crypto's looking for is they're looking for regulations that are specific to cryptocurrency.
Dude, give us, I think it really comes down to give us the guidelines. But, one of the key things and I was reading through the transcript, and really what Congress is trying to do right now, at least from the transcript, it looks like they're just trying to address the gap in regulation for the non-security tokens in the crypto market, because the security ones make a whole lot of sense and they can follow the existing framework. But when you get outside of that, it's really hard. And it has made it even worse when you've got companies filing bankruptcy, you have a bunch of failures of platforms. And really, when you get outside of the securities and turn it into more of a monetary, there's not a whole lot of framework. Now, this is something Joel, the Cardano's chief legal officer, and I talk about all the time. And I know that I bring that up a lot, but he and I have these conversations, and defining what it is going to help a lot. Now, also another gentleman that I work with Fluent Finance, we've talked about it as well, and the idea is, quit waiting for an entity like the CFTC to tell you what to do. Look at how you're using it. Look at how it compares to a fiat product and follow the rules on the fiat product that you're mirroring, because a lot of the crypto mirrors a fiat product in some way, shape, or form. And
it's just like using a Singapore dollar in place of a U.S. dollar. I mean, it's just a replacement of existing. And we talked about this before in an episode a couple of weeks back about how the SEC was regulating from a prosecution standpoint rather than laying down new guidelines. They're like, you already know what the guidelines are. The guidelines are the same as money is pretty much what they've been saying, right?
Yeah.
And follow the guidelines of the money, what you just said. Otherwise, we're just going to prosecute you, and we're not going to warn you, and we're not going to install anybody in your office, and we're not going to follow you around. we're just going to wait till you like go off the deep end, and we're just going to prosecute the hell out of you, and it's going to cost you financially, right?
AKA, we're going to give you enough rope to hang yourself.
Yes.
So
pretty much that's the way it seems. And it seems like they're, I'm not going to say malicious in their prosecution, but it seems like they're very willing to do it, right? Very willing to do it. And it's kind of weird, and you never know what they're actually working on to bring to justice, right? But it seems like they've got like one from column A, one from, as far as like who they prosecuted and for what, right? It's like one in each category, right? Almost.
Well, yeah.
And does that mean that they're just making an example out of each one of the biggest ones? Or does that mean, hey, this was the first one in that category, and all you guys that are underneath him are going to get it too? You know what I mean? That's the way it seems.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Like, so I was doing the research. So the CFTC has 69 crypto-related enforcement actions as of today, or as of the article that was gone up. Who knows if another one's happened? And we haven't heard about all 69, right? So we don't know. I mean, we could probably dig into it.
I hear more about SEC than the CFTC. I hear a lot more about SEC prosecuting than CFTC, to be quite honest with you.
Well, I mean,
I read about more of that.
Well, it's a lot more, it's a lot more public, right? So the SEC is a more well-known. It ties in very closely to stocks and bonds, so people are very aware of it. And when you start to get into CFTC, it's less known. And I mean, these are the two organizations that are fighting with each other to who actually gets to own the regulation of crypto. And so that's where you're starting to see it. But they're also
to tokens, right? So
exactly.
Is crypto a commodity, or is it a security? I mean, that's really, I guess, what it comes down to. What is it? So maybe if the industry defined what it is, or maybe, sometimes it is a security, sometimes it's a token, maybe sometimes it's the CFTC and sometimes it's the SEC, Yeah,
well, and that's kind of the interesting thing is the lines, and this is where the definition comes into play, right? And you can't always follow the fiat piece of it, is because you can have a single item that has the ability to act as both a commodity and a security at the exact same time. So how do you regulate both of those at the same time? Because if you look at the rules for each one of those, guess what? They're completely different. And so when you look at it, if you decide to follow both rules, that means you don't get to do anything, because they contradict each other very, very frequently. But there's a lot of things that are going to be going on. They're right now establishing a process through their internal deliberations at the CFTC. And really, the thing that I really enjoyed about reading this and really diving into it is that they're not doing this in a silo. They've actually asked for public input on how to engage, to give the right level of scrutiny, and to evaluate it so that it doesn't either one of two things it doesn't do. One, it doesn't fall flat and means absolutely nothing. And one, it's not so restrictive that it completely kills the industry. And we don't very often hear the SEC doing that.
That seems to be the foremost thought on everyone's mind, including both the CFTC and the SEC, is we don't want to stifle the innovation, right? We want the United States to be on the leading edge of, financial innovation, and we think there's some merit to it. We just want them to follow the rules. However, we're probably not going to tell you what the rules are.
Yeah. So, and this is really interesting as I look at the way that they're approaching this. This is not very different. The way the UK is doing it, right? So the UK wants to be the crypto hub of the world. They want to maintain that dominance. At the same time, I believe that the US could take over the crypto dominance in the market if they can be the first to provide workable regulation. And I'm looking at the way that the CFTC is approaching it and the same way that the UK government is approaching it. They're both looking, and they're looking for people to come in. Now, the UK government is closing their commentary, I think the 30th of March. I could be wrong, but I think it's somewhere around the 30th of March. And they close that down and they start writing the regulation. We don't have a date from the CFTC.
No.
So now
it's an open commentary right now, and I didn't dig into it, but I did see that the current administration is also wanting to lay down some guardrails and some guidelines and that sort of thing for crypto now too. That seems to, but they haven't really put it all out there yet, right? They've said some things, but it's not anything regarding. There's no policy yet. Let's say it that way, right?
Yeah.
It's just some. Some framework, it seems like so far,
Yeah. I think we have to be, I'm hoping that they're being super careful about this, because if you hamstring this new technology so that it is not, it can't compete with the traditional finance. It can't compete with those things. If you make it so that it's a less than product, that's just going to destroy our ability to innovate here. And I'm hoping that they look at all the things that they've learned from the traditional finance and all the things that didn't work there and all the different ways that they've caused it to be consolidated into these giant monoliths out there. And they learn from that, and they make the guidelines in such a way that the traditional finance can participate, but they're not dominant. And that's the big thing that I really, really, really going to say one more really hope that they really focus on.
So you don't want the Mastercards and the banks and the traditional FIs being the umbrella over the cryptocurrency, right? You don't want them to.
I don't want that. I don't want a Jamie Dimon driving crypto. He has no place in it. He can't make up his mind. He is bipolar as heck when it comes to new technology. One day he loves it. The next day he hates it. It depends on where his stock price is. And that is the problem. I mean, the same thing happens with Bank of America and Wells Fargo and Visa and Mastercard. These are all public companies that are trying to drive their stock. And they're going to say whatever drives their stock price up. We got to quit worrying about that. And let's figure out the way to drive innovation. And that's really my worry in this.
Yeah, that's reasonable, and I think that in my mind, the reason crypto hasn't established itself as the dominant force in the crypto market, right, is because the companies that have kind of set the bar there turned out to be the companies that also just imploded on themselves and were, FTX and, a few others, right? That, where Silvergate apparently is, getting it right now. And Genesis, right? All those companies are, were the big players, right? And so I think there needs to emerge a new big player in the space. Maybe it's Polygon. Maybe they can do it, right? But that's what needs to happen is a real big player that's doing it the right way needs to emerge in the space and set an example for others to follow.
I fully disagree with you on that. I think that if you have a big player, you're going to continue to see these collapses happen, because those big players, the only way they can get that big is to over leverage themselves. And then, because this is an area that is really driven by the people, I mean, that's the whole thing about decentralization, is that it is a decision by individuals. And a comment that you make and a reaction that I take make big deal when you talk Web3 and decentralization. So as soon as you start to have these really, really, really big players like a Binance, I mean, right now, Binance is doing 80% of the volume in the world on crypto.
Yeah.
So it's only a matter of
so they're
days.
over leveraged and their coin is over. Was it the BUS, right?
Right.
That it's also over leveraged, and essentially the same thing could happen to Binance that happened to FTX, right? They stop believing in the coin, and away it goes, right?
And then you even look at like something like a Tether, right? So Tether is getting their butts kicked, but they're the largest U.S. stablecoin by far. The next one is Circle, but still look at, you have USDT, which is like by far, and they got their butts handed to them because they were tied to all these different things because people, the fear factor, the FUD took over.
Yeah.
And so you're seeing how much we as people in this new environment have the ability to change the markets. It's no longer these really big investment companies that are changing the markets. We as individuals now have the ability to do so. That is one of the things that I love about Web3 is that we actually have the ability to make a difference again. And it is just, it's nothing that's ever happened to this level before. So I get so excited about this, but I want to move into our next story. I could talk about this. We could spend an entire episode just talking about this, but I want to get into the next story, which is something that I've been talking about. And I think I could probably go back to a podcast or two that I was on before talking about how blockchain isn't just about payments. No. And really for me, this is, California's Department of Motor Vehicles, or the DMV, is partnering with the crypto software Oxhead Alpha, to make car registrations, title verification more efficient using the Tezos blockchain. And so for me, I've always said, I think blockchain is the perfect way to create a national registry of all driver's license, of all vehicles, of all tickets, of all the things. You have one place, and every state is a node on the chain that is crossing over. And now I can register a vehicle, I can transfer a title, I can get a loan, I can pay off a loan, everything on the chain in near real time, versus me wanting to pay off my loan and get the title takes 3-4 weeks. Me wanting to transfer my license plate from Utah to Arizona, Utah doesn't realize it until I don't buy a new plate, or until the title gets requested over to Arizona or whatever it is. And that takes weeks or months or things like that. So I see this as being a huge step forward, and I just hope that other states jump on. Sorry, Bruce, I will let you talk about it, man, but I love this. It's like that area where I think blockchain is definitely useful outside of payments.
Anybody who can innovate the DMV is a hero in my book, right?
For real.
There was a response the other day on Twitter, and I think it was Casey Neistat that said he was talking about another subject entirely, but he's like, if you could make the DMV better, it would be wonderful, right? It was something else that some other innovation that was happening, but having dealt with all that, back in the day, like when there was only paper, right, before it was computerized, right? Now they've, digitized all the documents, but searching just a bunch of scanned documents.
It's digitized paper.
Exactly. It's it's not OCR'd, it's just digitized, right? I mean, so the ability to scan the information within the document is probably not there. But if you took every document related to one person and their driving history and their vehicles and their registrations and their licenses and their plates and their everything else, and just assign one account number to it, right? A block, right? And put all that information within that block. Holy mackerel, how much easier would that make it? And it seems like from what I read in that article, it's all about it seems like the DMV says, hey, yeah, this is good, right? They're just not sure how to they don't know about the longevity of it, I think is their concern, whether it's got longevity. And anytime you're, putting new systems in place, that's always a concern, but that seems to be the concern in my
Well, they were concerned about bringing computers in too. Like, is this just a fad, right? I mean, I mean, any organization. But, one of the things that I saw, and I was reading an article about, and I think Porsche is the one that came up with it, Wow, I thought I turned all of my stuff off. Please hold while I fix that. Okay, cool. So, I mean, Porsche came out and they're doing NFTs of their vehicles. Now, this is where I see the blockchain, NFTs, the DMV, all the stuff kind of starting to come together. What Porsche has done is that they've created, using smart contracts, they've created a dynamic NFT. So basically what it does is it tells you who purchased it, how much they purchased it for, every service that it's had, if it's been in an accident, whatever it is, all of that is inside that NFT. So now if you take that vehicle as a dynamic NFT and you start transferring that, when you sell the vehicle, you transfer that dynamic NFT over, then that gets dropped onto the blockchain, the DMV's blockchain. You know, you just move it throughout that process. So basically an open sea for the DMV.
Yeah.
I think that is really where we'll end up. And that'll be really, really huge for us because now you don't have to worry about, you know, was this car flooded? Was this car, like all of that will be tracked. So now, and I hate to say this, but hey, Carfax, your days are numbered unless you become the dynamic NFT marketplace. So, hey guys, CarMax or Carfax, if that's an idea, man, I'm just telling you right now, I'll take the royalties, man. I'll take the royalties.
Well, and this kind of ties in with the story we did, I think it was last week about Spatial Labs, Sandu, right? His concept was, you know, when you're buying the Gen 1 sweatshirt from me, when it leaves the, you know, the factory, usually it's, you know, the price, you know, it makes it worth less, right?
Yeah.
His concept of this is an asset now. This is not, you know, something that you bought that's declining in value. This is now an asset. Same thing could also be applied to the Porsche NFT, right?
Yeah.
This is now an asset and it has value just beyond the car itself, right? It's a collectible because it's one with the NFT and it's got the service records and it's got, right. So way beyond Carfax,
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the really cool things is like my vehicle has a whole bunch of subscription services that you can add on to it. Like, it's not as bad as BMW saying turn on and off your heated seats as a subscription service, but it's pretty close. But just imagine that your NFT says, okay, well, they turned on this service. They turned off this service. Like you can see all of that in there. And then on top of that, you start to look at, you know, now you can make the vehicle more interesting because, hey, I changed the color, or hey, I added this. Like I start to think like more if you think of like gaming, right? So now I add custom wheels. Well, that custom wheel goes on the NFT. And I tint the windows. Now that tinted windows goes on the NFT. I changed.
And this could go way beyond that. I was watching a video with Linus Tech Tips the other day, right? I like Linus. And he was no, it wasn't Linus. It was Austin Evans. And he had bought a computer off of eBay. And it was a gaming PC, right? It was Amazon. He bought it from Amazon. It was a gaming PC. And it said it was a Core i5, and it showed a picture of it, and it had, you know, RGB fans. And being a father of a teenager, you just bought one of these things, so you know what they cost, right? But this was $500, right? And it was $500 because they had 10-year-old components in it. It was a 10-year-old Core i5, right? In the thing, it was a 10th generation Intel processor, right? It was, you know,
so it was a
graphics,
gaming computer from 10 years ago.
It was a game, and they compared it with like, so he went out and took the same $500 and went to Micro Center or whatever, right? And he picked up a Ryzen chip that had a graphics coprocessor built into it that was actually better than the graphics card that was in this unit that they bought, right? And so if you NFT'd everything, right? It would say, okay, this machine contains X, Y, Z, you know,
Yes.
and ABC, right? And it was built on this date, and it was, you know, deployed on this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even computer networks could benefit from blockchain, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I
There's
see
so
why.
many things.
I see why Diamond is like flip-flop on crypto. He doesn't like crypto, but he loves blockchain because I think blockchain is going to make banking a lot better, especially at the JP Morgan scale, right?
Yeah. It already has started to.
I don't want to go down a bunch of different rabbit holes here, but applying blockchain to any project of scale,
Mm-hmm.
U.S. Census, right? Manufacturing.
Yeah, but that gets into the digital ID that I'm not a big fan of, the digital ID stuff. Because then that gets into social scoring, and I'm not going to get into that. But
then we're mirroring, right?
Yeah. So I mean, coming back to the DMV, they did state that this blockchain is not going to eliminate the DMV's role in the transaction process. This is just another way to manage through the process. So we went from paper to digitized paper to blockchain version of the digitization. And really it's a way to implement the oversight, kind of like an escrow contract. It's kind of how they're looking at it. But they're really trying to figure out how to use this. They see a benefit of it. But they really think that this could reduce a lot of the costs of the existing infrastructure of the DMV in California. And I mean, that infrastructure is still on green screens, man. So just kind of think about it that way.
And it's the largest one that I know of also. As far as DMVs, it's the largest in the U.S., right? And I think that makes it the largest in the world as far as like a state that has registrations, right? It has the largest database. So I can only imagine they're car crazy in California. You can't live in California without one, right? There's no going anywhere. I mean, you're freeway for hours. So, you know, I think, like I said, we could go down a lot of rabbit holes with this, but
that we could.
I just briefly want to touch on in some of the presentations I've seen with Brett King, he talked about the history of banking in one of his things, and he talked about how they're just taking the paper process and digitizing it, right, and not recreating it, right, like not recreating the process. They're just making the checkbook digital, right? They're making an Excel spreadsheet now, right, and that's where the innovation comes in, right? That's what really needs to happen in all these industries is they need to stop making a electronic paper version of stuff, and they need to start making a digital version of what is actually going on, right? The paper-based systems are not going to survive, you know, another 5 years. It's all these businesses that were holding out to build a website and holding out to be digital. Well, now you can stop worrying about being digital. Now you need to start worrying about being Web3, right? Yeah. you can forget a website and being digital now. That's over with. That's come to pass. And if you didn't jump on that, now you really got a high barrier, a high ladder to jump on to catch the bottom rung. Now you got to jump onto Web3, right? So, you know, it's.
Well, I mean, we're talking about similar things, so I'll do this and we'll wrap it up and we'll move on to the next story. But when the iPhone and the touchscreen style phones came out, everything was skeuomorphic, meaning that it felt like something people already understood. And so we've gone through that with finance. We've gone through that with just about everything that went from paper to digital. It was very skeuomorphic. So now everybody is comfortable with using the computer in the same way they've used the paper technology, the analog version. So we went from analog to digital. And the next step, I don't know what the hell we're going to call it, but it is now taking that to the next level and optimizing all of that skeuomorphic experience so that we can be more efficient, faster, and more traceable, trackable.
I think the term that they've come up with is phygital, where it's somewhat physical and somewhat digital, right?
Digital.
Phygital, yeah,
Okay.
that's the one. PHY. So it's like physical, but that's yeah.
That's a new one, man.
To me, it's more like physical to virtual, though. Is what needs to happen, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know what that term is, and my mind's not in the term making up.
Not mine either.
This morning, it's a little too early for all that. I'm only halfway into this thing here.
Yeah, so I'm going to hop over to the next story. Not a good transition for this one, so we're just going to flip into it.
Okay.
Ripple has been going through, as we mentioned earlier, the SEC has been going through a lawsuit with the SEC claiming that they are a security, even though they thought they were a commodity. So this is that battle that we've been talking about. They're considered a utility token, but the SEC says no, you're a security. The CFTC says no, they're a commodity. So everybody's fighting over this. But the really great part about this is that lawsuit's been going on, I think, almost 2 years now, nearly 2 years. And the judge's ruling is predicted to come out by March 31st of this year. Now, most of the people that are really close to the matter believe that this is going to go in the direction of Ripple so that XRP is considered not a security. And just so everybody understands is that the JP coin is based off of XRP. So that was the whole purpose of XRP.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
The JPM coin is
yes.
Is it on the Ripple chain?
It is not on the Ripple chain, but it leveraged all of the Ripple chain functionality. It leveraged the XRP dynamics. It leveraged a whole bunch of things. And so just if you go back and look at the document, if you look at the timing of the lawsuit, I just find this interesting. It might be corollary, not causary. But XRP and Ripple, sorry, with my big words. Yeah. Woohoo.
Yeah.
But so Ripple got served by the SEC. About the same time is when JP Morgan announced the JPM coin. How interesting. But I don't know if those two have anything together. I kind of feel like it does because JPM has all the same characteristics, uses all the same type. The language is extremely similar, all those different things for that match up. But the really good piece about this is it's really starting to show, because the purpose of XRP is to move information in large blocks for large volumes for financial institutions. Everybody seems to think that they're going to come out ahead on this one. And I'm really, really hoping so, because what that will do is create a ton of clarity for the market on cryptocurrency. Like we just talked about the CFTC, we talked about the SEC. I think this ruling is going to set the boundary and really help us move forward with the innovation. But dude, this is really cool.
In March, so we got what, a month and a half.
We got about a month.
About a month and a half. Yeah. And then we've got. So, what do you think? How do you think he's going to rule?
I can't imagine ruling it as a security. I really can't imagine them ruling as a security because of the way that it works. Now, what I could see them possibly doing is fining Ripple for marketing it as a potential security based upon the language they've used. But the actual piece, the actual coin, I can't see them doing it as a security just because of it's a utility token. And although
if
it
they
does
do
have
rule
a value,
it as a security, does that mean it's no longer going to function in its current form factor?
It would mean that they have to change the way that it's currently functioning. How much, I'm not quite sure. But I think the rules change on them, right?
Does anybody know if the judge that's ruling on this case banks at J.P. Morgan Chase?
That's a good point. I hadn't even thought about that, but that's a good point.
I'm not saying anything. This is not financial advice. I'm not implying anything. I'm just asking questions.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. Like, and that, that could be some good investigative work. So if anybody does that investigative work.
CoffeeZilla. Let's call CoffeeZilla in on this one. Get
Definitely.
Steve over here.
Yeah, well, let's check in with Steve. And if anybody has that information or knows anything about it, dude, just drop it in the comments, and we'll get this. Send us a note. Let us know. But there's I kind of look at this, and here's why I think it's going to be going really positive. Also, is the judge has stated that the ruling in a previous with library doesn't apply to the secondary market of the transactions of the library tokens, implying that library coin itself is not a security. And if you look at the way that XRP and Ripple are using it, it falls exactly the same in line. And that's where I was going when I said based upon the way that it's a utility token that's used for something, there's a previous ruling that backs that up, and that's why everybody is so excited about it. And I can't wait because I've got some XRP. I'm being completely honest here.
Okay.
I've got some XRP.
Okay.
So
but this is not financial advice, correct? This is not.
It is not financial advice. We are not financial advisors of any sort. This is purely for informational purposes and for entertainment.
And full disclosure, you do have some, and that's why you care about this. And okay.
I do.
But that's wonderful that we're being real about this and not trying to do anything. So if it does rule in their favor, if this judge does rule in their favor, is this going to unlock other similar?
Yes.
Or is there something that is similar that needs to be unlocked because of this?
No, I think what it does is it more unlocks the market. And what it does is sets a precedent with a very large player that has been in just completely entangled in this for the last couple of years.
I was going to say that you're talking about a fine that they're going to get. The fine has been that they've been in a legal battle for 2 years. That is very costly. I mean, that is not a cheap legal battle when you're going up against the federal government. The kind of attorneys that you have to retain in order to fight those battles, and to fight them for that long and to deal with it, because that stuff costs a lot of money. I mean, there's a lot right there. And then another fine on top of that. I mean, yes, Ripple is big and XRP is big, but it's still a lot of money. Money is money. Hurts. I don't care who you are,
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, I think that this is going to be one of those triggers for them to define what is a security. And so that will also help the CFTC, because now if we've defined what is not a security, then that kind of gives us an opening to what is a security. And now that means it's a commodity if you really look at it, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's just a utility. And so now we've decided, the best part is we've decided it's not a security. So that helps us understand what isn't a security. Now, the next thing we have to figure out is it a utility delivery tool like a UPS, or is it a commodity like a piece of gold? And I think that's what
or rather than trying to define it as something that already exists and has already been defined. I mean, they defined a stock as what it is back in the day, right? They defined a commodity as what it is. Maybe this needs another whole new definition entirely as to what this is. I think they're trying to put a square peg in a round hole.
Well, they've already stated they're not going to create separate rules for crypto. What they are going to do is they're going to give guidelines to what rules they follow based upon behavior.
Okay.
So
that's a little closer, but you understand what I'm saying. That they need to come up with rather than calling it a cola. They need to come up with a new name for it, right? It's a lemon lime soft drink, right? It's because it is different. It's totally different. There's no way you can look at a fiat security or a fiat commodity, fiat based commodity, and say that it's the same as a digital token or an NFT, because they're completely different apples and oranges. Completely different.
So to kind of give you a way to look at it is, what defines something being a soda?
Carbonation.
Now, okay, well then that means that my sparkling water is a soda. But it's not a soda, right? It's a sparkling water.
It's got natural carbonation from a spring, probably. So, yeah.
No, it's infused with CO2.
Okay.
So how do we define, is it the sugar content that makes it a soda? Is it the flavoring? Is it the amount of carbonation?
Does it matter where you live in the U.S. because they call it pop in Detroit?
Right. But you get my point, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's where we're at right now is we know it's a drink.
Yeah.
But how do we define what kind of a drink is it?
Yeah. We know it's a
beverage.
It's a unit of value. It's a unit that has value. That essentially that's why it's under SEC and CFTC to begin with, right? And all these, because it's monetary oriented. It has value. That's why it's in this class to begin with. But
and now we're trying to decide,
especially with NFTs, it's NFTs, even though there's like money and value and there's floors and you're bidding and you're minting and all that, it's so far removed from money and exchange and buying. It's more like buying something from Sotheby's than it is from, going to a local store or something like that. It's more like auction. In most cases, right?
But they treat that as property. So, I mean, that's the other difference is they treat that as property.
Yeah.
So you look at that as being property.
Not monetary value. It's treated as an asset.
Right. But not a security. It's an asset. So speaking of assets, I'm going to move into our next story.
Yeah, I was setting you up for this. I was hoping you were going to grab it. Hey. All right. Yeah.
All right, throwing it back at you, man. All right, so our next story is we're talking about NFTs. We're talking about those being seen as assets. Roofstock has completed its second NFT-based sale of a single-family rental home property in Alabama, which blows my mind that it was in Alabama, with the property being sold for $180,000 on a marketplace built by Origin Protocol and leveraging the DeFi lender Teller Protocol for on-chain financing. Man, I can't, first off, like I said, I can't believe it was in Alabama. Second, I am so stoked to see that we've got the lending, the money movement, which is the part that is so painful on chain, man. That is so freaking awesome. It's a first step. It's our first step into making what I believe blockchain can completely revolutionize the home buying, the property process to a point where, honestly, you could see a property and within 5 minutes actually own it. Like it can get
and I don't see why you can't. There's no reason why you can't. I mean, it's
because
it's the same as buying a car. It's the same as buying, well,
hell, I wish I could buy a car in 5 minutes too. I mean, that's another one that needs some help. But
that's the salesman. That's the sale. That's part of the joy of buying a car, right? You get to sit there for 3 hours while nobody's doing anything, just to make you miserable.
Actually, so like with a Tesla, you can purchase it in 5 minutes. You just don't get it in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So now if we can have the purchase and the delivery all within 5 minutes, I'm ready to go, man.
Yeah, it's that's the dealer network, and that's the problem with the dealer network. Whereas Tesla doesn't have that dealer network. You're dealing directly with Tesla. They were the first one that ever even went down that, and now the other GM especially is moving hard and fast, and Ford.
So we're off on a
model.
different subject, man. Let's come back to the property piece of it, right?
No, it's okay.
So I mean, obviously, I mean, there's not a whole lot of details around this. But what was really interesting as I was diving into it, as much as I could find, is that the process that they went through purchasing the property through the NFT marketplace was very skeuomorphic, as we talked about earlier, where it's like they went to a website and they entered their information, very Web 2 interface. They followed the real estate process in a Web 2 interface, but then everything that happened in the back, and you and I have talked about this before, is that if you can make it feel like it's Web 2, but you're actually leveraging Web 3, that's going to be a really good way to get people in.
So was this house done as an auction, or was this just done as a individual private sale? Okay.
Straight up.
So that's the difference between this one and the one that occurred here in Gulfport, Florida, with Profi, I think was the name of the company that was they did a house on an NFT, but that was on OpenSea. I believe that was put on OpenSea, and there was all kinds of bids on it, and they pulled it off and then they put it back on, I think is what happened. And one guy ended up buying it. And then there's been another one since then, but I haven't heard anything more until just now with this one, this story. But this is different.
There's a lot of things that are different about this. I mean, first, me or the buyer here had to mint an NFT proving that they were who they were, proving that they had the funds available. Like they had to mint an NFT to be able to deliver to the seller, for the seller to go, okay, I will accept this purchase offer. So they had to do that. And the property NFTs are following the ERC 721 standard for, single membership LLC, and it's member managed, and they're following all of that pieces of it too. So this kind of goes into our previous conversation, is like, now I've proven who I am. Can I use that NFT anywhere else? Am I going to be able to take that object and go cross network and have that total ability to be totally mobile with that NFT to be able to prove who I am, to make a purchase? Yeah. And I think that's kind of the way that we're headed. And now it isn't an identification, but it is a proof of I'm trying to think, like, proof of identity, I guess. Yeah. Let's
so the all identity, these wallets and stuff that we've been talking about, are all these wallets going to contain all this stuff besides just your crypto? If you buy an NFT as your house as an NFT, will these Ledger wallets and these other guys that we've been talking to, talking about, will they contain all that stuff for you?
Yeah, so that's the really cool thing is we'll just go back to the Ledger wallet we talked about a few weeks ago, right? So it holds NFTs, it holds crypto, it holds other assets that are on chain. So you have all of that, and then here recently, the blockchain is now, my brain just went blank on the name of the freaking protocol. The Ordinals protocol is now letting you put NFTs on the Bitcoin blockchain. So you're basically buying a block on the Bitcoin blockchain to store NFTs.
Okay. So it's a storage, you're buying a storage space for it. Okay.
Right. And so you're going to see a lot of those things happen. And that's where I mean, we're just in this evolution, right? We went from being a newborn to an infant, and now we're starting to get into the toddler phase. And I would say, I think we just finally went from newborn to infant is where I think we're at.
Yeah, we're not toddling yet. I think, you and I have our fingers on the pulse of this stuff, kind of, Fintech and money and everything generally.
Yeah.
And we just barely know about this. Imagine I'm looking at all these cars driving up and down the road out here. Imagine, like how many of these people are even aware of it, one, right?
So few.
And two, how many have used it, right? And then knowingly how far we are to adoption, for the mainstream consumer, right? I hate to keep going back to that, but that's where money wins, is mainstream consumers that are used to using it. You know what I mean? And like you said, having Web3 stuff working in the background while it looks Web2 to them on the front is an easy way to get it. And then it's like, haha, surprise, you were using Web3 all along, and you didn't know it,
Yeah, and I think that's a big piece. Like, as we talk about this, I mean, this home purchase is a perfect example of that transition from Web 2 to Web 3.
Yeah.
Right. And allows them to leverage DeFi lenders on a real world asset for collateral.
Yep.
It allows them to use, in this particular case, they use USDC as the stable coin. Right. So you've got all these different things. And then on top of that, think about it this way. You can now start to de-risk yourself as the lender because you know more information. You're tracking more information. You're able to see more information. And over time, it's going to get to a point where the risk levels become really, really low, which in theory, interest rates are based around risk levels, or at least they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Unless you're the Fed, and then you get to make it up as you go. But that's a different story for a different day. But I think this is a really neat way to start to show that you can use cryptocurrencies to finance real world assets, and that the DeFi process, like the decentralized finance, is showing real potential to what'd you call it, the digital world. The digital world.
Not to go down another rabbit hole here, but I'm thinking about David Schroeder, who was a speaker at Social Mobile Payments way back in the day. His current company, or the company he was working at a year ago, I think he's the CEO, Anchor, was rewarding people with cryptocurrency, but they were rewarding them for giving up information that made them less risky when they were doing interactions on the internet, right? And how much this ties in with that kind of a concept is what's amazing to me, right? Because, he was apparently the more information they have on you when you're making an online purchase, it determines what rail it goes down and how much the retailer saves, and it's like anything, right? And this kind of aligns with it in a different way, but it's the same concept, right? He's rewarding people for giving up, a phone number or an apartment number on an address, or, something that brings them closer to the buyer and seller, closer together, right? There's more defining information, I guess is the right word, so that if you got a crypto wallet, and they're saying now, like credit history, use your Netflix account you've been paying on every month now as for your credit history, right? Use your this, use your that, stuff that they wouldn't even considered 5 years ago, 10 years ago, right? So what if you were doing all this stuff in the metaverse, right? And you're doing all this buying and selling and trading and NFTs and da 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 da. There's no credit company in the world, none of the big three, TransUnion, Equifax, none of those guys have any of that information about you. And yet you could be a NFT billionaire going down, right? You could be worth billions of dollars just getting some stuff that, what they call it when they drop them right for free. You're on the whitelist and you get on the drop. You just happened to hit on a couple good drops, right? You got a doodle drop or something, and now it's worth 500,000, right?
Yeah, well,
and nobody knows you're worth 500 grand. You know?
Well, and that's what's interesting. That was a big problem that was going on with the buy now, pay laters when they exploded. And so what ended up happening is that all the buy now, pay laters are like, hey, this is a form of credit. These people need to get credit for paying
Getting
these
credit
things off. Yeah, right. But at the same time, they're also like, but we also need to tell you about the folks that are like stiffing us.
Yeah.
And you need to penalize them. So that started to happen. And I think, honestly, I think the days of the credit bureaus are numbered if they can't figure out how to get out of me reporting to you what has happened, and they can't figure out how to get on chain and see what's there for real risk, not perceived risk. And there are a number of companies that I've talked to that are looking at so many different angles. And there's even a bank that I was talking to the other day that their entire ledger system for the bank is on chain. They brought the bank's ledger system on chain. So, which is amazing. But where I was going with that originally,
it's going to happen.
And where I was going at originally is that there's a company, and actually I did an interview with her the other day, and it's posted up on Fintech Confidential, with Karen Moynihan of Boss Insights. And the whole idea of Boss Insights is to give banks, financial institutions, and other entities the ability to truly understand their business customers, understand what bills they're paying, what accounts receivables they have, all of the things that you don't see in a credit report. Maybe you see my bank balance and it's always low, but you see that I'm always on time and always ahead on all these different things. And maybe you see that this one thing that I'm paying on is about to drop off. So I'm going to have an additional $5,000, $10,000 a month. And you can make a decision to say, okay, I will let you do this, but only once that's done. And once that's done, then I can release the funds. These are the types of things that Boss Insight can really provide to the financial institutions. Or even if you start to dive into the earned, oh my gosh, my brain just went blank. It's called ERC, Employee Retention Credit, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of banks don't even know how many employees these folks have. So how are they going to? You can lend against that because it's a guaranteed fund that's going to come in. So if I want it now versus waiting for it, as a bank, I could lend for it if I knew how many people were employed there. And if I knew how long the people had been employed there. If I know that information, I can do that. And I think that's really what we're starting to get to, is being able to look at information outside of the traditional rails. And people are trying to figure out how to do that. And again, I'm going to say this again, I think blockchain is going to really, really help streamline that in the long term.
Yeah, and if your wallet contains all your identity and verification of who you are and this and that and everything, everything you own should be in there, right? Because listen, sometimes it's the infrastructure you have underneath you that's your value rather than your job, right? It's your skill set, even, right? It's your having a studio and having all the camera equipment and the lights and the this and that gives you the potential to, generate more content and to make more money, or, like that concept, so it's,
I hate to plug another one of my episodes, but
no, you don't.
So obviously, I sat down with the CEO of MX. I also sat down with the CTO of MX.com. And it's really interesting how they are a data aggregation platform. And they're doing right now in Web 2 is aggregating the data together to make decisions like what we're talking about. So I'm these are the discussions that I want to have with those guys. And at one of the next events, I'm going to try and convince them to have more discussions about where they're going. But those are the types of things I think you're going to see more data aggregation services happening that are taking things across multiple chains and pulling it into one spot, because it's not easy to traverse the chains.
No, it's not. It's expensive. It's the reason for it is not always apparent, right? Like, why do we want to expend this money to do this, right? And then to the security behind being connected to multiple chains, right? And the wrapping and the what they call it, where they're transition it from one currency to another currency. I forget what it's called. There's just a lot to it, and it's a lot, and it's not for the little guys. And anytime the little guys can't do it or can't afford to do it, then are you decentralized?
Right. Yeah, really. Oh, well, speaking of spending a ton of money, eBay has been on this hiring spree for Web3 specialists for its NFT platform, Known Origin. It is aiming to compete with Amazon in this growing Web3 sector that we continue to talk about. They acquired Known Origin in 2021, and really, they're being super ambitious about this. And that's one of the things that I think is really interesting. You see the shift, like all of these centralized technology firms did all these huge layoffs, and even Amazon did layoffs. eBay did layoffs.
Yeah.
But if you notice, the layoffs that they did were around legacy functions and legacy things.
Yeah.
And so what is happening
they're all tightening their belt and ready, but at the same time, setting up new budgets for Web3 blockchain projects, et cetera,
Well, I mean, so we had the Industrial Revolution. I think everybody's getting ready for the Web3 revolution, and anything that was tied to pre-Web3, and I'm going to say this, if you don't know Web3, you're in danger. If you aren't learning about Web3, your job, your livelihood is in danger. That's my perspective, but I truly believe that because everything is moving this direction. It's moving extremely fast. This does not follow anything that has ever happened in the past. And
no, the adoption of the internet was not as quick as the adoption of Web3, and the investment in the internet was not as big as the investment that's going on in Web3. Not at all.
Just look at ChatGPT. ChatGPT. They had within like 5 days 100 million users.
And now it's $20 a month to get the good
I'm
stuff,
more than
right?
I would more than happy to pay 20. Like I'm on the list. I'm like, dude, give me the $20 a month.
So you're going to give it to ChatGPT before you give it to Elon for Twitter?
Yep. I'm giving it to Elon either way, right? I mean, he's one of the primary investors in the AI company, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I look at it, and I'm like, I'm not using ChatGPT to do my job. I'm using ChatGPT to help me get unstuck. No.
Yeah.
Like when I get stuck and I'm trying to think of something, I'm like, oh man, I just need I need, honestly, this is what it comes down to. Normal, like in the past, if I worked in an office, I'd walk over to my friend in the office and I go, here's kind of what I'm thinking. What do you think? Now ChatGPT is that for me. Like, and I can do it on my phone.
It's a bounce. You can bounce things off of it, and it's
and it starts to learn it's learning the way that I talk, the way that I do things, the way that I ask for things, and like the ability to respond in a way that this sounds funny, the way that understands the way that I speak, the way that I communicate is going to be huge.
That's because it's sentient, Ted. It knows who you are.
All right. Sweet.
It's a sentient being. ChatGPT is actually Elon Musk in disguise.
All right.
No, but seriously, I really think you're right in that. And it's proven itself very quickly. It cannot produce audio. No, it cannot produce imagery, right? The way, DALL-E 2 and I don't know what the other ones are that produce the music, right? But it can produce poetry. It can produce, right, which can be obviously
any written communication, really.
Right. And a number, I read this morning, there's like I forget what the term what they used were, but there's like 1,000 different uses for ChatGPT. Mm-hmm. There's 1,000 different inference points, right? That it has, and almost any way you could possibly think of. Everything from, hey, I've got hamburger noodles and squash in my refrigerator. What can I make out of it, right? And here comes the recipe. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's not sentient, but it's a rapid development tool, and like you said, the ability to bounce off of stuff. I've used it very little. Of course, my life this last month has been, moving and unpacking and cleaning and scrubbing and all that stuff. But I think as we move more into the things that you and I are doing and the things that we're doing individually, I think I'm going to see a lot of use for that as I start to expand and make things, blow things up, as I guess is the right word.
Yeah. No, I mean, it really has been really, really helpful for me. I have a role in a ton of marketing. I write for other companies and other things beyond myself. So it's been really helpful to create context, to create personalities. I have a background in product management too, so I can start to define a persona and get like additional input on that type of a persona based upon what it's already learned. I'm really getting excited for what's going on with it.
I never thought of it as generating a persona. That was a big thing back in the day with any kind of marketing. But when I was using HubSpot, that was a big thing. Was define the persona of the person that you're going
so we
after.
We could go down a ChatGPT thing forever. Let's
not
talk
do
about.
that.
We're going to do that. So let's hop back into eBay. So basically, I just want to kind of cover this. Most of the jobs are going to be based in Manchester, UK, with hybrid working environments, and then we've also got they're really focusing on content designers, artists, those types of things, and technology leads to really drive that forward. And really they're trying to figure out different ways to provide fans to connect with the players. And so it continues to go up and up and up. And it's really interesting as I mentioned before, people I think are starting to understand that if they're not in Web3, they're going to be left behind, because one of Amazon and eBay have had a number of Google searches. Like one of the top Google searches is for Web3 jobs at Amazon, and Web3 jobs at eBay have just skyrocketed. And so you're starting to see where people are saying Web3 jobs at name the company, Web3 jobs at name the company. So people are starting to do that and dive into it. But I mean, this is going to be a pretty big showdown between these two online giants on who's going to come out ahead on these.
Well, when you think of auction sites, right? eBay was the original auction site, right? And for them to allow even a company like OpenSea or any of these Nifty or any of these other NFT marketplaces to come in and essentially steal their thunder, and they were so focused on the physical rather than the digital, right? They were focused on physical items changing hands like they've done for years, right? And they're starting to get now, and the funny thing is they're looking at it not as a commerce thing, but more as a collectibles, right? That seems to be their thing, is it's a digital collectible rather than a something of value, and that may be for purposes of bookkeeping or compliance or whatever, right? But it's weird that a company that became the world's largest auction house totally missed the boat on NFTs. It's so strange,
I'm not surprised that they missed it. they split PayPal off, trying to de-risk themselves. So they've been going through ways to try and de-risk. NFTs are extremely freaking risky.
Yeah.
At least they have been. Here's I'm going to give my 2 cents on why I think eBay is diving and even Amazon. I think they're starting to see how things like that home purchase are happening, and they see that their goods that they're selling or they're offering are going to follow the same way. And then it's going to move into the digital environment.
The funny thing I got from the article, and it's kind of off the point of the main part of the article, is that Amazon hired somebody to bring more Web3 to the cloud computing that Amazon has, the AWS, the elastic computing. And I was like, are they wanting to put a blockchain in like AWS now, or like in AWS kind of a blockchain in itself to begin with? I mean,
so imagine using the elastic function at Amazon on AWS in a way that allows you to distribute multiple nodes and to scale them up and scale them down and have validators in all those different places and scale those up and scale those down based on network traffic. It is unreal what they could possibly do. And I think there's a little bit of FOMO with them. I mean, heck, earlier this year, Google announced how they are supporting that on their cloud systems. They're supporting different blockchains. I mean, Solana is one that they have validators over
there. Of course, you're going to support blockchains on Google Cloud. You got Sam Moll working over there, for God's sakes. Of course, he's going to bring that in.
But
go ahead.
No. I was going to say I totally agree with you. I think it's slightly different, but I think Amazon has the ability to come at it from both aspects, both the software architecture as well as the goods that are being sold. So just like our story last week where we talked about the goods having the NFC in there that ties it together, just now start to think about everything you buy from Amazon having that same experience.
For warranty, it would be great, right? For
exactly.
RMA stuff, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's fantastic, right? Even when it's in your network, and functioning, you could identify it, right? For a guy who runs a large network for a computer company, an enterprise network, right? I mean, what employees have what devices and where are they, and all that sort of thing.
Now, even go even deeper with Amazon. How many times are people like, I never received it? How much friendly fraud could they stop by leveraging blockchain, by leveraging those different things that they can actually figure out, and in my head, I start going, okay, well, what if the tape that they start to use has the ability to have AirTag like functionality?
Not too hard to believe at all. I mean,
because you can probably drive that cost pretty
RFID
low,
has been in little tags forever, right? I mean, they could be woven into a cardboard box pretty easily, and
right. And you could probably do a really
tiny C-cell battery, and it's wonderful,
Yeah, so I mean, these are the types of things that
or the product itself. It's built in. Every product has an AirTag in it. And where's this thing located? Oh, it's in your house. Oh, you never received it, but it's in your house.
That gets a little too creepy for me, man. Sorry. I would rather it be on the packaging than on the actual device. But hey, that's just.
But once the packaging's discarded, they have no proof anymore. So it has to be in the actual device, because then so they get it and then they discard the packaging instantly, right? And they say, well, I don't know what's wrong with your thing. It may have said that it was here, but it was never here, or a porch pirate got it or whatever, right?
Yeah. Well, you'd be able to do proof of delivery too.
That's true. But that doesn't stop there's guys that follow the UPS trucks now, and they're one block behind them, just making a living just following Amazon, so.
All right. Well,
anyway,
Well, we went down the wrong rabbit hole on that one. So the last thing that I thought was one of the really cool things, because I'm a payments geek through and through, really was the Tron founder, Justin Sun, announced that the Tron blockchain with ChatGPT, which we dived into from OpenAI, they've built a decentralized payment framework for ChatGPT and with Tron blockchain to bring like payments to blockchain as well as ChatGPT. So it'll be really cool where you like, I'm thinking about it. I'm like going, hey, I will give you $20 to write me a unique, something that's never been written before thing, and now I've locked that down, so it's only mine. I will only ever be able to give it. They'll never be able to give it to anybody else. Maybe I get an NFT off of it, but I'm able to buy that. And then what it does is it allows us to have the ability to move money in a trustworthy, secure, and really in an anti-censorship system. So I think it's kind of cool that we're looking at those things.
I don't think I've come to understand all the benefits of mixing a product. I don't think I've come to understand all the benefits of ChatGPT to begin with, right? I've used it very little. And as a result of not understanding all the benefits of ChatGPT, I don't understand all the benefits of ChatGPT coupled with blockchain, right? Mm-hmm. But, in your example there, that totally makes sense. But it could go so far beyond that. I mean, it could be like, write me a War and Peace, right? And, make me the author of that, right? And don't ever let anybody do a 5,000 word or 5,000 page book on this subject again, right? I don't know. Like I said, I haven't fully grasped it all,
So kind of think about it this way. So I want to write a smart contract. And I'm able to say, I want to write a smart contract for this. This is the outcome I want. This is what I want to be able to have happen. This is what I want to track. These are all the rules behind it. This is how much money is required in order to transfer said item, whatever it is. And you're able to do that, and you write it into ChatGPT. And it goes, okay, well, here's how we would write it. Here's all these different things. Here's some things to think about. Here's some things you maybe are missing. Would you like me to add those? Would you like me to remove those? Okay, great. And then you would say, okay, send this smart contract to Bruce Burke.eth, which is your ETH address, right? So it goes there. And now you get it and it pops up, and now your ChatGPT basically says, hey, Bruce, you have a smart contract from Ted. Please read the details around all of this, and type accept for you to pay him 1 ETH for this.
Okay.
And then you do it.
Okay. Poof. Okay. So it's a payment system within ChatGPT that is not just for interacting with the system and paying your monthly bill to ChatGPT, but also to interact with other people that you may be creating products out of ChatGPT with.
Yeah, I mean, and I used ETH and I shouldn't have. It's actually using the Tron blockchain for that. But what's really cool about this is it's using the BitTorrent file storage system.
Oh, is it?
So,
okay.
Yeah. So it's using the AI results are stored in the BitTorrent file storage system so that it's stored somewhere versus just kind of being in the ledger, in the history of ChatGPT.
Okay. Yeah. You do, because there is no storage facility within ChatGPT. It
just a history.
And that's it. Yeah.
There's a history, but I mean, how do you store things? If you say, hey, create me an NFT or create me an NFT with this smart contract with these rules, it'll be like, all right, cool. Now you got to go do the rest of the work. What if I didn't have to do the rest of the work there? What if it was like, here it is, it's stored here. Who do you want to send this to?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, there's just so much stuff that I see with this. The funny part is that everybody thought that it was going to have like a big like impact on the TRX, the BTT, the JST, and the Sun tokens. But the funny part about it, this is what I laugh about, the 24 hours after this announcement, they all went down by about 1%.
Yeah. I don't think things have as much of an impact as people think they're going to have in most cases, right? Unless it becomes a major story, it just doesn't come to be, right?
Well, I think a lot of people have been burned, right? So they saw what happened, like when everybody reacted to FTX. They saw what happened with everything that happened with Genesis. Like we started out the conversation, people are starting to realize that if they knee jerk, they can create big consequences. So now it's more of like, hey, let me figure out what the real is before I do anything. And I think that's where we're starting to get to.
Yeah, let me not panic. Don't let my kernel panic here and
exactly
throw my laptop into a thing, right? Because that's what happens, right? What do you want to call it? The mob effect, and it called the mob effect in the term when the majority of a group changes its behavior, right? So it moves that whole community because, majority wins kind of a thing, right? You know, especially a majority that's acting versus a minority that's not acting, right? Not inaction, that's the problem, the mob rules. And, maybe there's a way in a blockchain to stop that from happening. Right. To offset and stagger and that kind of stuff. Right.
Yeah. But the thing you can't stop is groupthink. And we are like, as a species, always worried about what our tribe thinks of us. And that's what causes groupthink, which then causes the mob contagion that happens of anything. And we've seen that with everything. I mean, just look at all of the things that just went sideways because they happen to have said something or done something with FTX. They may not have had a whole lot of exposure financially, but that reputational exposure wreaked havoc on them. And I think you're going to see a lot of that. Yeah. All righty, Bruce. Man, we hit the last story.
Is that all the stories? That was the last
That's
story?
all the stories. Yeah, man.
Okay. All right. Hey.
I think I did one too many this week, but
And
of course we go down our rabbit holes every once in a while.
Yeah, try not to. I'm trying to be succinct, but it's difficult when you're an old man with a wandering mind.
Yeah, whatever. You're only old in numbers. You are not old in any other way, my friend.
Yeah.
So.
Any
so
tell us what's
thoughts?
going on with you. What's coming out from Ted Huff and Fintech Confidential, and what's all going on this week? What's new?
All right. Well, with Fintech Confidential, we've started a little series on Fintech Confidential's podcast called Web3 with FTC, where we cover stories every single day to kind of give you an idea of what's going on. We've also added a Telegram channel called Web3 with FTC. Haha, big surprise. And what that does is it gives you news about every hour on the hour based upon recent news that happens. So you'll see a new story every hour. Just kind of giving you an update to what's going on. So if you needed to check in, you want to just kind of watch it. It's kind of like a Twitter feed, but I've taken stories from all over the Web3 universe and brought them together in one spot. Not only that, but also we're going to be having a new episode of Fintech Confidential's one-on-one, which is a one-on-one interview. And the next one coming up is going to be really interesting. It's not really Web3 generated, but it is Fintech. And that is going to be with Loan Pro's CEO and founder, Rhett Roberts. So that'll be coming up as well. We've got a lot of really great stuff going on. Also, I will be attending the Fintech meetup in Las Vegas, the 19th through the 22nd. I'm looking forward to meeting with a lot of Fintech people there and really just talking more about Fintech and Web3. So that's some of the stuff that I've got going on over
When's
here.
the Fintech meetup? When is that?
Fintech meetup is in Las Vegas, Nevada on March 19th through March 22nd. And if you haven't taken a look at what Fintech meetup is, Bruce, let's just make sure to throw that in the show notes.
Yeah.
That link, and I'll make sure to get that. But I'll definitely be there and talking to everybody about everything about Fintech. Definitely will be throwing my Web3 hat on there and really seeing how that's impacting the rest of Fintech so I can bring that back to you all. And as always, Fintech Confidential, partnering up with Bruce and Bullet Point Bulletins, as well as his new venture. We are accepting sponsorships. I had a great sponsor that continued to move on with us. SolvePath has continued to move forward with us, but we're always looking for additional ones. And Bruce, there's just so much stuff going on over here. I'm working on a couple other ventures, man. I could go for probably another 45 minutes talking about all the fun things I'm doing. But Bruce, what do you got going on, my man?
Well, here's something that I found as I was, as you know, I've been moving for the last month. And the Bullet Point Bulletins this last week just did not make it out. I wanted to finalize everything in the new place so I can lock and load. But as I was moving and cleaning up and whatnot, Ted, here's something that a blast from the past.
Oh!
Here's a blast from the past. The Pay Show Guide. This is the last show that Ted and I did in Caesar's Palace. You can see the 2021 to 2019, and then we had the pandemic. But this pay thing is what you should be paying attention to here. I'm relaunching the brand because I don't think it got a fair shake. It got interrupted by the pandemic like everything else did. And it's coming out. So I'm relaunching the Pay brand as a interview. I'm enjoying doing the Bullet Point Bulletins, but I want to do deeper dives, and I want to highlight some of the people that are making a difference in kind of like doing a show without actually doing a show, right? Yet we may get there shortly. But I want to build some community first. And I think doing these interviews and doing these videos and, I'm building a website for all this and everything else. This is all going to come into one network between Ted and I, and maybe even some other people that were trying to make a umbrella, and then all these different brands for me, Pay, Bullet Point Bulletins for Ted, Fintech Confidential, and his interviews. All these brands will be under one larger brand is what we're working towards. And each one will have its own separate identity as it does now, like the Bullet Point Bulletins will continue to be short, quick, to the point. But the Pay interviews will probably be a half hour to an hour interviews with one individual person. And it's strictly focused on fintech, Web3, blockchain, AI, crypto. Pretty much is the five
the things we have
posts,
fun with,
if you will, right? The tent poles, that hold up the tent. And I really want to bring people in that are doing something really different, really unique, really moving things forward. I don't want to just bring in a bunch of people that just are doing the same old thing of credit card processing or, something like that. Not that I have anything against all that. That's all very important to the landscape, but I want to make it future forward, the hashtag Pay. So that stuff is very important to me because that's what I found in social mobile payments on was, I was ahead of the curve then, right? I always thought that hashtag Pay, I came about the name because everything, it's Apple Pay, it's Samsung Pay, it's, Google Pay, it's everything is Pay. So the hash Pay was a move on that, right?
Kind of a way to bring everything together, right?
Yeah, but now it's like it's more like Web3, right? It's more like how are you making it different than the traditional payments, right? How are you making it unique in 2023, right? You're not just skeuomorphizing what we have already, right?
Yep.
You're taking it beyond. You're totally reinventing it. You're making it different. You're making us go, what? When we read about it, right? You're like, this is, when they say this is crazy, right? That's the stuff that works, right? That's the stuff that becomes big, because crazy at scale is what everybody gravitates to.
You're only crazy until it works.
Exactly. And then you're a hero, right? And then you're a billionaire, right? PayPal, email, the internet. Let's talk about all of it, right? eBay,
the car,
Amazon. Amazon was a damn book thing. I mean, he got on there to sell books. Now he's going into him and Justin Sun are going into outer space on Blue Origins. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So, it's. You've got to come out a little bit of left field first. And this was a start of something that we were going to build this into a worldwide show of where we went to a different fintech hub, London, Paris, Dubai. That was the whole concept of pay. I think we've graduated beyond that. With Web3 and everything else that's going on. Sorry, there's an ambulance or something going by here. You may be able to hear it a little bit.
One of the golfers got hit by a ball.
Yeah, somebody got taken out, but they're stuck at the light here, apparently here for a few minutes. But there they go. They're going down the hill now.
So Bruce, how are people going to be able to find out more about pay? #pay. Where are they? If they want to learn how to be part of it.
So I'm reforming some of the groups that I did on LinkedIn and on Facebook that were Apple fanboy, which is something I started when in the middle of the pandemic. I started writing about Apple because I had nothing else to do, and I wrote some things about Apple payment systems and stuff like that were really in depth, but don't exist anymore. But I'm going to be building a website. Right now, I'm converting a LinkedIn group and a Facebook group. There'll be a website out within a week or 2 weeks. Follow me on social media. I'm at Bruce Burke here. I'm at Bruce Q Burke on Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on everything else, right? TikTok even, I think. And then, like I said, there's going to be a website soon. And as far as the interviews themselves, I want to make it a little different. It's going to be a little different than normal.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for more.
No, man. Yeah, definitely, man. All right. Well, hey, Bruce, you guys, everybody knows, get a hold of Bruce at Bruce Burke everywhere. Bruce Burke on YouTube, Bruce Q Burke on everywhere else, whether it be Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. You'll be able to find him in those different places. If you're looking for me, it's Ted Huff, TEDDHUFF, everywhere. Do a quick Google search, you'll find me. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. But then also, if you're looking for Fintech Confidential, it's Fintech Confidential, just about everywhere. YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, as I said last week, doesn't want me to have that many characters. So it's at FT Confidential. We'll go ahead and put all those links down in the show notes, down in the descriptions for you guys to click on. Bruce, another fantastic week, man. I love having these conversations with you, and I can't wait to start seeing the pay conversations showing up, man. I'm super excited to see those happening again.
Yeah, that's it's. I'm not ready to do another show right yet, but I think this is a way to start making inroads and start building a community. I think in building social mobile payments and pay, because I launched that so quickly, I really didn't get a chance. I really didn't build a community first. And I think community first and building an audience and building some followers and some people around the brand is going to lend itself and lead itself to a show. If it doesn't lead itself to a show, then that's not where it's supposed to go. Right. But there's a lot more coming as I ramp up, coming off the move, coming out of the pandemic. I've got about another decade left that I can like really perform and keep going. So let's just keep it going from here, you know?
Oh, dude, I don't believe it's only a decade. I think you have at least 2 more left in you. But hey, here's one of the things that I really love about the idea of pay is the way you're approaching it is the whole basis around the Web3. It's about the community. It's about everybody coming together under the moniker and driving an ideal forward. So I'm super excited that you're bringing pay back, #payback. And man, I'm excited. I can't wait to see more. So have a great week, Bruce. Thanks again. And we'll see you all next week.
Thank you, Ted. Have a great